Have you ever sat on a plane, waiting for takeoff, looked out the window at that massive wing, and just thought, how on earth is that thing going to lift a 400-ton jet into the sky? It feels like it should be impossible, like it defies the laws of physics. Well, today we're going to unravel that exact mystery.
All right, to kick things off, let's try a little quiz from a real pro, aerodynamicist Charles Eastlick. So, what's the real deal with lift? Is it A, Bernoulli's law, B, Newton's laws, C, this explainer, or D, all of the above? Go ahead, lock in your answer. The truth might not be what you expect.
You know, most of us learned a very specific story back in school to explain how planes fly. It's the one you see everywhere, in textbooks, on science shows, and it all starts with a very famous name. And that name is Bernoulli. At the heart of the popular theory is Bernoulli's principle. The gist is actually pretty simple. When a fluid, and yep, air totally counts as a fluid, starts moving faster, its internal pressure goes down. Faster air, lower pressure. That's the key takeaway. What's so cool is that you can see this in action with some super simple demos. I mean, try this right now. Hold a piece of paper up to your chin and blow across the top surface. It lifts up. Or if you hang two balloons side by side and blow between them, they don't push apart, they actually suck together. In both cases, the fast-moving air you created has lower pressure than the air around it, and that's what causes the magic. So how does this link up to that classic curved shape of a wing? Well, the story goes like this. Since the top of the wing is curved, it's a longer journey for the air than the flat bottom. And here's the key part of the myth. The air particles that split at the front have to meet up again at the back at the exact same time. So the air on top has to hustle. It has to go faster. And faster air means lower pressure. So you've got low pressure on top, high pressure on the bottom, and boom, lift. It's a neat, tidy explanation. But is it right? Well, maybe it's a little too tidy. It turns out that when physicists really started to put this popular story under the microscope, they found some serious cracks in the foundation. And don't just take my word for it. Listen to Professor Holger Babinski from the University of Cambridge. He calls this common explanation, quote, one of the most tenacious myths in physics. A myth. Wow. Okay, so if the story we've all been told is wrong, then what's really happening? The biggest problem is that core idea, the equal transit time. This whole picture of air particles having a friendly reunion at the back of the wing, it's just plain false. When you actually watch smoke flowing over a wing in a wind tunnel, you see it clear as day. The air on top moves way faster. So much faster that it gets to the back of the wing long before the air from the bottom. That single assumption, the main pillar of the whole theory, just completely falls apart. So if the longer path story is a bust, what are we left with? Well, to get the real picture, we need to bring in another heavyweight of physics, Sir Isaac Newton. Now, this diagram shows us something absolutely crucial. It's not just the curve of the wing that matters. See that angle of attack? That's just the angle that the wing is tilted as it flies into the wind. It's the combination of the shape and this tilt that lets the wing actively grab the air and literally push it downwards. And here's the most intuitive way to feel this. Next time you're in a moving car, stick your hand out the window. If you keep it flat, not much happens. But the moment you tilt your hand up slightly, whoosh, you feel a powerful force pushing your hand up. That's it. You're deflecting air down, and in return, the air is pushing your hand up. What you're feeling is Newton's third law of motion, pure and simple. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The action is the wing, or your hand, pushing a massive amount of air down. The reaction is that air pushing the wing up. That downward deflection of air, that is the fundamental source of lift. Okay, so hold on. Is it Newton then? Is the whole Bernoulli pressure story a complete myth we should just forget? Or is it more complicated than that? Well, the reality is actually way more elegant. It's about how these two big ideas come together. And this is where we get some real clarity. Remember our quizmaster, Charles Eastlick? He says that for the engineers who actually design these aircraft, there is no controversy. It's not a fight between Bernoulli and Newton. For them, both are right, and you need both to explain what's happening. So how can they both be right? Well, because they're describing the same events from two different but equally valid points of view. Think of it this way. Newton's laws describe the big picture, the why. The wing exerts a force on a huge mass of air, pushing it down. Bernoulli's principle describes the local details, the how. It explains what happens to the pressure and speed of the air right at the surface of the wing as a result of being pushed down. They're two sides of the same coin.
So here's the big aha moment, the crucial takeaway. A wing's shape and its angle of attack work together to deflect a ton of air downwards. That's the Newtonian action-reaction. And it's that very process of pushing the air down that causes the air on top to speed up and create the low-pressure zone that Bernoulli's principle describes. They're not two competing theories. One is the cause, and the other is the effect. And there you have it. The answer to that quiz was D, all of the above. You need Newton's action-reaction and Bernoulli's pressure differences to tell the whole story. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Now that you know how a wing creates lift, how does an upside-down wing on a race car use the exact same principles to do the exact opposite, to create a massive downforce that glues it to the track? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.